Hello. The rate of change you have heard about from many speakers, but I want to stress a few points about this rate of change. It's not just automation. One of the things that's happening with the pandemic environment is because we are worried about second and third waves, we're going to be implementing a lot of things that futurists have talked about faster than before. You're already speeding up anyway, but the idea of working at home, doing teleeducation, telemedicine, everything is obviously going to be speeded up faster, and people will learn that a lot of things can be done at home. Not everything. You'll still have to have some things done in the factory, and you'll still have to have people done in the offices. But telepresence is something that will be noticed more. We're already experimenting with the idea of somebody being at home, being in a virtual reality, and moving hands, which then moves the robot's hands. That telepresence is going to be increasing. Now, if you take a look at change in Korea, consider what the housing of your grandparents. Consider during the Korean War, the state of Korea. You're aware that extraordinary changes occurred, and you have looked at the rest of the world to see how to catch up, and you see you've caught up in many different ways, and now we're sort of together. We're at the same, in a sense, plateau of moving into the artificial intelligence augmented world. Now, a couple of things about change and artificial intelligence and human relations and human development. It's important to stress. There are three kinds of artificial intelligence, and they almost always get confused. And it's important for you in developing human capacity to understand that these are really three different things. The first is what we have today. That's artificial narrow intelligence. That's the thing that won in AlphaGo. That's the thing that drives a car. That's the thing that does a cancer diagnosis. But the thing that drives a car cannot diagnose cancer and cannot win in Go. They're different programs. Now, but they learn. The more you use them, they get smarter and smarter and smarter, and that's what we're having in all kinds of different ways. And that is happening extremely fast and is going to be speeded up by the COVID pandemic, because you're obviously replacing a lot of human interaction. Now, the second kind we don't have yet, but it's called artificial general intelligence. And that's a little bit like us in the sense that you can be given a novel or a new kind of a problem, and you think about it. You talk to your friends, you do some Google searches, you read papers, you do all kinds of stuff to get to an answer. General intelligence would do the same thing. Narrow doesn't, because narrow sticks within its narrow area. But general intelligence can draw on the Internet of Things. It can draw on other narrow intelligences. It can even make robot telephone calls and interact with people. So it will be able to cut across human employment much faster than people expect. You can prepare for narrow intelligence, like truck drivers. The artificial narrow intelligence will not replace truck drivers in one day. It's phased. You can plan for it. It's a linear thing. General intelligence cuts across a whole swath of things very fast. Now, one, we may never have general intelligence, but most people think we will. Question is when. It might be 10 years, it may be 50 years, maybe 30 years, we're not sure. The reason people are concerned about it now is because we don't know how fast general intelligence will evolve into superintelligence. Superintelligence sets its own goals, independent of humans. That's the difference. So take general intelligence, problem solving in new and novel ways, like we do a little bit, but it then goes beyond our understanding, the next step. That's what science fiction is warning us about. Now, the reason I'm stressing all this is that remember when AlphaGo won, and a lot of Koreans were going like, oh my God, this artificial intelligence thing's much faster than I thought. You know, look at those science fiction movies. You know, you can have the Terminator, all these horrible things can happen. Well, hold on. Yes, we should begin to think about now how we get human and artificial intelligence that goes into general intelligence to work together. That's one of the great tasks of human resources development in the future, is how you make that relationship between the human and the artificial intelligence now beginning to do that. So we evolve into general intelligence, we evolve together. And so if we go to superintelligence, well, we're with it, so we're not in trouble. The issue is if we evolve separately, then the science fiction stuff may be right. We've got to learn today how to begin to augment ourselves, just like we use the robot can augment ourselves in construction, or it can replace us. Do both. Same thing with artificial general intelligence. It'll replace us in many areas, but we've got to learn how to work with it. Now, rate of change is accelerating, and it's not just artificial intelligence doing it. It'll also be synthetic biology. This is where you create a new life form, and you take the genetic code from one kind of a species, which you write it in a computer program, then you duplicate another part of its species and you put it in a computer program. You put all these little computer programs together, and then you buy the genetic material and make a new life form. Synthetic biology could become as big a deal in the future as the steam engine was the Industrial Revolution. Think of how many things biology can do that you can't do. We might learn how to do these things. So you got the synthetic biology and the artificial intelligence working together. And we as human beings have got to evolve together with this. So the more we think ahead, the better off we'll make that transition. Now, because we have all these rates of change going on, this means that employees have got to keep retraining and relearning and new software and new procedures all the time. It'll be a pain in the neck. You'll always be learning all the time. Now, which means we've got to learn how to learn faster. And we have to learn how to be more intelligent, because the requirements of labor in the future, and work in the future, is more brain power than muscle power. So I'll talk in a little bit about how we improve that intelligence, but first on the training part. We all know that a motion picture is better than just a static picture for learning, and a static picture is better than the printed page for learning. We know this. But an immersive, artificial, augmented reality, augmented reality by computer-generated images and so forth, we learn even faster if we are immersed in the environment. Now, increasingly, as people manufacture products and software, they will create little training things with them. I'm sure you're seeing this already happening more and more. So that instead of just training an employee or retraining them for a new capacity, will be a little bit of a training thing a lot of the time, almost all the time. Because as new things come online faster, you'll have to have your employees solving a problem at the same time they're learning how to solve the problem. Now, the immersive environments, these little, goggle things that would have, they used to be very expensive. Now you can get them for $1 or $2. I mean, they're very cheap. So the idea of all employees being able to use augmented reality on call for training and for product problem solving will become more and more normal and expected. And those corporations that are like this will be more attractive to people. I mean, because if I'm working for somebody that's at the state of the art of training systems, I want to go there rather than somewhere else that's not. Now, back to corporate and individual intelligence. The corporation will increasingly seem like a collective intelligence system. We're evolving this way already. I mean, yes, you have people, you have products, you have services, but what's tying this all together isn't just the idea of the fourth industrial revolution. Because the fourth industrial revolution is saying, how do I take my market research all the way through product development, manufacturing, training, sales, evaluation, all of those steps of the business process? How do I find what's repetitious in each little spot of that? And then how do I put AI in that? That's in process now. And I hope you're already doing this now, because that's your competitive advantage. But what you're also going to have to do is create you'll have to create an online collective intelligence system that every employee, including your clients, but especially every employee, has a way to input intelligence to the corporation as a whole collective intelligence thing, so that the thing moves through time and gets more intelligent. And I'll talk about a little bit more about how that happens in just a second. But first, I want to get the idea of collective intelligence different than knowledge management. I hope you have a knowledge management system already. If you don't, get it fast, you'll need that. But take the knowledge management system and say, okay, now how does every element of information, how can it change? Why? Because information changes through time. It has a different meaning through time. Different people play with it. So it's not a static bunch of information units. Each unit should be able to be edited and changed and can have different perceptions. You know, like, what's this view versus this view? You can have two different views on a piece of information. That's very complex, but that's where we're going. Also, at the same time, the software's got to be changing all the time. And then the people that you're working with changing. So the whole system should be like an organic whole. Think of it like a brain. Information comes into your brain and you associate it and you give it meaning through time. Corporation can be a brain, collective intelligence. You can do some Google searches on different approaches to collective intelligence, but the sooner you move in that direction, the better off you will be. And that's also part of your training system, because just as the brain teaches me how to move, your collective intelligence will teach your human resources how to train and retrain and keep your employees up to date. Now, individual intelligence. This is interesting. I've given you a PowerPoint, so hopefully you can look at this at your leisure later on. But there's 10 ways to increase individual intelligence. Each one is no big thing, but taken together, it's a big thing. And you have to keep doing them. So someone says, well, these are not permanent ways to increase intelligence. Yes, oxygen's not permanent either. You keep breathing to keep alive. So these are kinds of things you should do all the time in your HR department. The first is manage response to feedback. Just getting feedback from employees or from the bosses is not enough, because that's just information overload. What you have to do is guarantee that there's a feedback system. You and human resources have got to connect the management and the employee on feedback both ways. It's responding to feedback that makes you more intelligent, not just getting feedback. You have to respond to feedback, and that's one of your key roles. Second, consistency of a caring, loving, concerned, caring environment, because the brain learns when it feels safe. If your brain feels threatened, it pulls in and it can actually shrink. Research shows that it pulls in a little bit when it's under too much stress. And you don't work. I mean, just think, if you're under a nervous stress, you're not going to learn a whole lot because you're trying to deal with that stress. So a loving, caring environment is first part. The second part of that fits in is diversity of environment. Now, we all know this as parents intuitively. You take a little baby and you have a crib where the baby is in, and you have these little things hanging over it and your little toys and different objects and so forth, because it stimulates the brain to wire, to grow. But if the thing hanging down over the crib is exactly in the same place, same lighting, the brain goes, I saw that yesterday. Why should I think? So move the object a little bit or put some little color light on it. Same thing with your environment. How can your environment be changing slightly a little bit all the time? So the brain, even when you're not even being aware of all the change, your unconscious mind is. So it's challenging the brain to wire. So consistency of caring, diversity of environment. Number 3, nutrition. This one, you're doing great on already. Korean food is world famous for being nutritious, good sort of stuff. I think that's going to be one of the gifts that Korea is going to be giving to the world is food. So you're okay on the nutrition part. I'm not going to reinforce that. That you've got. The other one is reasoning exercises. There's all kinds. There's a guy named De Bono. You can do a Google search on De Bono reasoning exercises. There's all kinds of these things. They're good for you to learn. You remember all these little what do you call that thing with all the little colors and the numbers, and you're going to line them up. It's good. All these reasoning exercises are important, like learning how to play the piano, because you're using your fingers and your mind together. So reasoning exercises are another part of this. Believing it is possible is the cheapest way to do it and maybe one of the most effective. You know, in medicine, we have a term called placebo effect. Placebo in English means that the doctor wants to have a certain bedside manner with the patient. If a patient thinks, oh my God, I'm going to get terrible, I'm getting worse, I'm getting worse, I'm getting worse. All right, so the doctor wants to calm you down. No, calm down, you'll make it, it's okay, don't get so nervous. If somebody's overconfident, says, I don't need this medicine, I'm okay, I know, you know, but the range of attitudes, if you think you're going to get sicker, you can get sicker a little bit, not a whole lot, but a little bit. If you think you're going to get better, you're going to get better, because the mind influences the brain, influences the body. So how we think about ourselves and how you think about each other matters. Placebo effect. If you're reinforcing the employees, they saying you're doing well, even if they're doing so-so, the mind starts to say, well, I can do well. Placebo effect. In medicine, it's worth 10%, people say. They don't really know, but we generally say 10%. Well, if you can improve employee performance 10%, that's not bad. It didn't cost you anything. Okay, what else we got here? Believing it's possible. Contact with intelligent people. Now, we all know, you know, in music, they have what's called a tuning fork, a little metal thing. You hit it, and it makes a sound. And you take another tuning fork and put it next to it, and it picks up that vibration a little bit. Contact is one of the ways we learn. We imitate people. We pick up whatever it is, but being around intelligent people makes you a little more intelligent. Now, that's hard to do. I mean, how can 99% of the world hang out with 1%? Physically not possible. But in cyberspace, it is. Imagine teaching people a software application by Bill Gates or some industrial process by Elon Musk. The mind is picking up that extra stuff. So it makes you more intelligent. So the more you have employees in an environment where they can contact electronically intelligent people relative to their process, the more the mind learns. Now, this is one you don't need help on. Gaming. Korea is already overstressed on doing gaming. You guys got to calm down on that. You can get the rest of the world to speed up, but you got to calm down. But gaming does make you more intelligent, but it's like anything else. You do it too much, it's counterproductive. You know, you need some sugar for the body to run. You take too much sugar, it's not healthy. Same thing with gaming. The right amount of gaming. But gaming is important. It does make the brain work better. Neuropharmacology is going to be more important in the future than today. We used to have some experiments run in the 70s and 80s with Sandow's drug company in Switzerland about how do you improve IQ. Very controversial stuff. The brain is not only electrical, it's also chemical. It's electrochemical brain. So we will learn more about how we can make the brain function better by certain kinds of pills. We use certain kinds of pills to put us to sleep. We use certain kinds of pills to wake us up. We'll eventually learn some of that pharmacology for our brains, but that's controversial, and maybe, but keep an eye on that as a future development for your employees. Another one is memes in the office. A meme is an English word that's a play on the word gene. Genes are the things that make up our body. Memes are the things that make up our group or our society. So if you want to change a person, you can genetically change the thing, and all of a sudden they're a little different. And so we've got genetic engineering and genes editing, all these sort of things coming up to change people's bodies. But we can also change society by the ideas and the memes that spread through. So you can have certain memes in your corporation that speed up learning, like one that I like to do. So what happens if in schools or in the workplaces you have a meme, intelligence is sexy? I've noticed that women sometimes will pretend not to be as intelligent as they really are. Because a lot of women think, around the world, not just Korea, a lot of places, they think that they'll scare away the men if they're too intelligent. So they act a little bit less intelligent. Well, that goes back to the placebo. If you're acting a little less intelligent, it makes you a little less intelligent. Don't do this. It's okay to be intelligent. You know, fortunately, I think that is an overall trend, and we're moving in that direction. But think of the memes, the key ideas in your corporation that you want to have people all know and spread around and live with this. Like we used to say, the early bird in the United States, early bird gets the worm. Well, this gets people to wake up early. It's a simple little thing. It's sort of silly, but it works. You need these sort of memes. And the last one is low stress, stimulating environments with certain music, certain colors, certain fragrances. How do you make an environment low stress but stimulating at the same time? So these are some of the things that I would recommend that you try and develop in your corporation, because you want your corporation individuals to be smarter, you want to have the collective intelligence to be better, and all together moving forward in a more intelligent way, anticipating a lot of this change. Now, one of the things that I think that's a point that a lot of times have not been stressed enough and not always understood, and that is understanding what is your HR improvement system. Now, is it employee reviews? Is it feedback procedures? What is your system to improve your HR department? What is a system for it? Once you understand that system, then you say, okay. Now you may want to talk to other people than just yourself, because sometimes people can see what your system is better than yourself. But what is your improvement system? And once you understand that, then how do you improve that? And as possible with online software, part of your collective intelligence system. Here's the improvement system. Now, how do I improve that? I'll give you an example. We apply that to the Millennium Project, the think tank I work with, ourselves. We used to have, part of our improvement system was to have an annual meeting. We all come in from jet planes and all that sort of stuff and sit somewhere and talk, come up with our priorities. Okay, so how do you improve that part of the improvement system? Okay, well, we do it online software. We have a survey that goes around called a Delphi survey. So we prioritize our stuff, explaining why we want this and why we don't want this, so we come to agreements online before we even meet for the planning committee meeting. So a lot of time has been saved by identifying the improvement system and improving that. So then we say, okay, now how do we improve that again? Well, then we would say, okay, what are the priorities? How do we rate them? And who's going to lead in these different things and have different opinions on it? So that each year or two, we sort of ratchet it up one more improvement to improvement to improvement. Now, you know that you use hardware in computers to make better hardware. We use software to make better software. I suggest to you to consider identifying your improvement system and then use that system to improve the improvement system. Just the phrase alone, improve the improvement system, can accelerate improvement in the same way that we accelerated software by using software to improve software. I thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely conference, and I hope to see you healthy someday again in South Korea. 않습니다.